Right, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on what time you're watching this. This is called the offside flag. We're doing this as two normal football fans. We're not professional, so you can sack your Alan Shearers off and people like that. We're doing this for a bit of fun. This is just a little link thing. There's no script on it. We'll talk about stuff that's on there, and then that'll be it. You won't see me scrambling for something to watch or anything like that. So as I said, this is called the offside flag. My name's Dan.
I'm Gavin, and I worry this will be where our football knowledge gets heavily exposed. But yes, wow, as I imagine a lot of these type of shows are going to touch upon, we are going to discuss the New England manager first, and his name is Sam Allardyce, I believe. Known for his tiki-taka.
Yes, Sam Allardyce. Been in the Premier League a long time. Now, I jokingly said 10 days ago or so that I'd quite like Mike Bassett to be the England manager, and apparently it actually came true. But no, in all seriousness, he's been around for a long time. He's English, he's passionate. Yes, people will question his football tactics. They see him as a long ball manager. But as far as I'm concerned, he's the kind of guy that England need. We need someone passionate. You might see him play long ball, but at the end of the day, he will change the system if he needs to, which I think was one of our biggest problems in the World Cup, in the European Championship, sorry.
Well, both.
Well, as we were too rigid. If something isn't going right, he will change it, and that is one of the big things with Sam Allardyce.
To a certain point, though, I think he's a bit of an unknown quantity, because this is the first time he's had a good nucleus of players to actually build upon. So it will be interesting, but my concern is it will be Andy Carroll and Kevin Nolan as the two first names on the sheet.
Now you see, you joke about Andy Carroll, however, but we could have done with him at the Euros. I mean, what defender wants big Andy Carroll coming on after 70 minutes and battering him around?
You see, I would have taken him because I think when you're building a squad, it's not so much, say, the best 4 or 5 strikers, it's options. Whereas, if you're not going to start Vardy, then Vardy, Sturridge and Rashford are almost players of the same ilk. So why not have someone a bit different? So if plan A isn't working, plan B might work, that type of thing. So, as you said, I think Allardyce would actually have a contingency plan in place, whereas I would argue Hodgson didn't have a plan in place.
Now Allardyce is England manager. What odds would you put on Michael Ricketts making a return to the England side?
I think the bookmakers have shot up the shop on that one, really. I think he will be a certainty.
Fantastic. In all fairness, though, he's English. The FA wanted an English manager, quite clearly. There was a few names banding around, Glenn Hoddle, but I think he's been out of management too long to make any sort of impact on it.
And is a dick. There is that. So
just so people know, opinions are our own, and if you want to sue him, then that's up to you, but I got nothing to do with this. Simple as. There was also Jurgen Klinsmann, a German that wanted the England job.
He's a German. I would have been, well, I've got nothing against Germany, but I would have been very, very happy to have seen Jurgen Klopp as the England manager. I think he's done a fantastic job at Dortmund.
Do you mean Klinsmann?
Oh, I said Klopp because you said Klopp, sorry.
And that's why this is recorded with no script. Klinsmann.
Yes, Klinsmann, yes. Another German, I believe. He's, again, it's not like he's got a fantastic managerial record, so we may as well have gone for Allardyce. He seems the lesser of many, many evils, to be honest. So, but whereas England seems to have struggled for a manager, a lot of Premier League clubs have managed to cherry pick the guy you have in charge. Like, Chelsea with Conte, Guardiola at Man City, and Mourinho at Man United. So, I'd like to discuss the new Premier League managers. As I said, it seems to be another hot topic in the world of football. So, what would you...
What do you want to start with? Mr. Mourinho?
I'd go with Mourinho. He's probably the most sort of publicised one, isn't he? Of the I think Mourinho. Whereas I think Mourinho is the quickest way to a league title. I really do think that. The only issue is he doesn't stay at a club very long, but I don't think he needs to at United. I think he just needs to galvanise the squad as he always does, and then leave the legacy he does after 3 years. Granted, he'll probably get sacked. The medical staff are probably quaking in their boots now, but I think that he is the right man for the job, considering they've wasted. Well, I would argue Moyes is another point for another time. I don't think he really got a fair crack at the whip at United, but someone who did get a fair crack at the whip would be Van Gaal, with the money he spent and squandered. So I think that they've had 2 managerial appointments that haven't worked out for whatever reason, whereas Mourinho is almost the final throw of the dice to get United back up to that upper echelon.
I think Mourinho is Man United manager 3 years too late. I think he should have been appointed when Ferguson stepped down. They had the chance, and Man United and Man United fans and the hierarchy at Manchester United didn't want him as manager. Look, you can say that he's not a manager for longevity. However, look at the way that he's left squads when he's left them. Yes, he might have lost the dressing room, but he's left squads that can win the Premier League. And I think that's the big thing with him. So if something went wrong at Man United and he eventually left, then the next manager that comes in has got a chance of taking that team forward. I agree with you with Moyes, didn't get the fair crack of the whip, but at the end of the day, when Ferguson stepped down, he was always going to be under pressure and always expected to deliver. Van Gaal, I don't think he wasted the money that he spent. What I think the problem is with Van Gaal is he was so under his own philosophy that he didn't let the players that he bought express their freedom.
Yeah.
And I think they were caught in a bubble, and I think that they were going to struggle under Van Gaal because, quite frankly, he was boring.
I understand.
And I think a lot of Man United fans will agree with me when they say he was boring and negative. And if you look at the goals scored under Van Gaal and the goals scored under any other manager that Man United have had, I think that'll back me up big time. But Mr. Mourinho isn't the only manager who has made an appearance in the Premier League this season at a new club. We'll go with Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. What do you think?
Well, I like, again, he's gone for another small team. He's trying to work his way up the football pyramid. So, but joking aside, his record, and whilst you would expect his win-loss record to be spectacular at these clubs, he really has done very well at big teams and against City with egos, big wage bills, things like that. I think he is the perfect man to take on that role, because I think he's managed these type of players before.
Yeah.
Whereas Pellegrini, it seemed like a step up for him, and I think that was a big part of the problem. And also, I mean, if I was doing it on paper, I would put City as comfortably league champions, because I think their team, like Arsenal, do underachieve quite a lot. I really do think that.
You said sarcastically about Guardiola getting another big team, but I think he was in a situation at Barcelona where he he quite literally landed on his feet. I mean, to be given that job, to get the players that he did, and there are 3 or 4 very, very good sides in Spain. And I think for him to win the trophies that he did over there, I think almost cement his ability, and I think they're good enough on his CV to get bigger clubs. I mean, he went to Bayern Munich and won everything.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, yeah. Apart from obviously the Champions League, but I mean, it's anyone's competition a lot of years, isn't it? So I don't think that should be held against him. But another manager we come to a very good CV in terms of the trophies he's won, both as a player and a manager, would be Antonio Conte. And it's a surprise appointment for me, to be honest, because, I mean, Juventus in Italy, they were clubs close to his heart, or teams close to his heart. So I'm surprised he's gone for Chelsea, really. But I think he's the perfect manager at the time, because he will... to put it in simple terms, he will just shout at the players, and eventually that will make them actually... they'll work hard, they'll be galvanised under him as well. I think there's a lot more to him than just shouting at players, but I think that does seem to be quite an effective tactic for a while.
Yeah, I think Conte is a good manager. I think he will do good for Chelsea. However, my concern is, yes, he was cleared of it, but he has just been cleared of match fixing. I wonder if Chelsea sent him his contract in a brown envelope. What do you reckon? But no, in all seriousness, I think he's got a good squad at Chelsea. He's a good manager. He did well for Italy, and I think that he'll have them up there and thereabouts. Chelsea had a poor season last season, a very poor season, and I just think that he's the kind of guy that can get them back up to where they need to be. I think he's got a big job on his hands. There's no two ways about it. I think he's got a ruthless owner who, if he does fail, will have him out the door before he can say boo, as far as I'm concerned. He's got a chance. He's got a good chance of doing well with Chelsea.
Yeah, I agree there. I think, but one thing I do not want him to do is buy Bonucci. That would be very nice if he could avoid that. But they are the 3 big managerial appointments. So we're now going to preview this week the first 10 teams based on alphabetical order. Basically signings, players they may need, and signings they have bought. And first would be the Gunners, and recently signed Xhaka from Borussia Mönchengladbach. So, any thoughts on Xhaka?
Yeah, Mönchengladbach, you probably get a few for on Scrabble for a start. I don't know a lot about him, but Arsenal need to sign players, and they need to spend money. I mean, there's been three seasons now they've been rumoured about getting Benzema.
Yeah.
They need him in that squad. He is a goal scorer. He is quality. He is Giroud with talent, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
Arsenal are serial underachievers. With the squads that they've had, with the manager that they've had, and the manager that they've got, there's no way that they shouldn't have not won a Premier League title for 10, 12 years now.
Wow.
It's 10 years, isn't it?
12, I think. It was 2004, I think the last title was.
Yeah, there's no way a club that size with that manager and that following should not be winning a Premier League title for 12 years. No. Defensively, they need to sharpen up. I mean, Per Mertesacker turns like a wheelie bin.
I think that's it. I think defences are what win you titles. So it's the fact that they've got players like Mertesacker. because going forward, that apart from obviously their striker, they're fine. Sanchez, for me, the best cam in the Premier League. So how he gets to 20 league assists when he's supplying Giroud is just beyond me. So yeah, I think Arsenal has said shore up defensively, a few buys like that, and they would be up until the final day challenging for the league title, unlike the previous seasons where they seem to fall away come February.
And inevitably they're going to finish fourth. No matter what we say about it, they're going to finish fourth. If I was the Premier League, I would get a pen, get their board, and I would write fourth, Arsenal. Doesn't matter whether they're top at Christmas, don't bother moving it, they'll finish fourth. And for some reason they seem to be delighted with that every year, which is quite concerning, to be honest. However, they did finish runners-up last season.
Yes, this is true. Well, see, I think that is not a bad season for them to finish runners-up, but it's a case of, with all due respect, who they finish runners-up to, because you think Leicester, I think part of the reason why they won the league, and there are many good reasons, is because they didn't have any of sort of the big teams breathing down their neck to put them off, to pressurise them.
But are they going to improve as much as City, United and Chelsea?
No, and that's the big thing, and it's what's going to make the league table so difficult to predict next season. But on next week's show, we're going to show our predictions for the league table and watch in May how very wrong they are.
Yes. So if we actually have any viewers for that, then we will show you what we think, and we will give you a Twitter address and a hashtag at the end of the show for you to send in yours, and we'll read them out and try not to take the mickey out of them. But don't be offended, because the chances are we're going to do our own predictions, and the chances are we're going to take the mickey out of our own as well. So, moving on, we've got Bournemouth, who I must say had a fantastic year last year. They managed to stay in the Premier League, which is an achievement in itself. Eddie Howe is a fantastic young England manager. But they have signed Jordan Ibe from Liverpool for £15 million. 15 million? What do you think?
I think it's good value for money because, well, he's English, so that obviously puts a premium on every player. But considering his age, his ability to get forward, I think he could improve with the final ball and things like that. But I think at Bournemouth he'll get a lot of chances. He'll be a first team regular, I would have thought. And I said, I think goodbye, and I think good all round. Liverpool will be happy to get him off their books for 15 million. Bournemouth will be happy to get him, and if he helps towards Premier League survival again and the money you get from TV revenue and things like that, then he has proved to be worthwhile.
But do you think if he was a foreigner he'd be worth £15 million?
I do not think that, no. But again, you've got to get to a quota of Premier League English players, don't you?
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of why the price goes up so much.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with the Premier League and English football, is the fact that there's that little English players coming through the system at the moment, that any player that moves anywhere is going to be worth probably double what their actual valuation is. And I suppose if they used it correctly and put it back into the academies, then that would help bring it through. But unfortunately, it seems that a lot of the time it ends up with money going on foreign players, and I think that's one of our biggest problems as a country.
But then again, with the Brexit, I suppose that may have to change, considering it'll only be established internationals moving over to England now, I would have thought, once the EU fully takes place.
Don't start me on politics. don't. We'll be here forever. Right, we're going to move on to next in line, which is Burnley. They have signed Iceland international Gudmundsson from Charlton Athletic. Had a very good tournament at the Euros. It just seems like every 2 years there's a major tournament, somebody stands out, he's going to go and play in the Premier League. I don't know a lot about him. All I know is he had a very, very good tournament for Iceland, and yeah, probably earned his move to the Premier League. However, why anybody want to go and serve for Burnley, I don't know. But yeah, I suppose Burnley have got a good manager in Sean Dyche. I think they call him the Ginger Mourinho.
I believe so, yes.
So I think they've got a good chance. What do you think of the signing?
Again, I know very little about him apart from the European Championships. He's one of the many players who performed well against England.
Yeah.
Although, again, I think in regards to that, it goes to show, like Leicester, what you can do with a good team spirit, good organisation. I think everyone pulling in the same direction. I think that'll be a big part of it. Whether he'll have that to the extent at Burnley, because I suppose international football, it's a national identity, isn't it, and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be a good buy. I think he will. Sean Dyche is again a good manager. I think he's another player who's big on team spirit. So, but one of the more established names in the Premier League history is a player who's just left Burnley.
And he happens to be Gav's favourite player. It is Joey Barton. Well, I'm going to look at it from a professional side, and Gav will look at it from, well, put it this way, a completely other side. I think that he's a big loss for Burnley in the football respect. I think that he was a very good player for them last season. He made the right decision to go down to Burnley and play there. He was their player of the season. And as far as I'm concerned, he's still good enough to play in the Premier League. And at one point, I do believe that he was good enough to be in the England squad. But he's gone to Rangers. Football-wise, is he a big loss to Burnley?
He is. Football-wise, I've never doubted his football ability. He is a good player. I'll give him that. He is a very good player. And anyway, moving on to Chelsea.
I'm gonna say that we're moving on, so neither of us get sued. Chelsea. Do you want to go for it on them?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I think a player, we talked about Goodmanson having a good Euros to then getting a move. A player who was under the radar until last season would be Kante, and he had a spectacular season. The interceptions, the miles he travelled on the pitch. He was the engine room of it, Leicester, and I get the feeling he probably ran to Chelsea. He's just his stamina is unreal. So I think he's a player that Chelsea, and he reminds me a lot of his manager from his playing career. I mean, I remember the amount of miles or kilometres or whatever that Conte used to put in for Juventus was fantastic. And he's got a player in the same well, pretty much very similar to him in Kante. But whilst we know a lot about Kante, the new striker, the Belgian from I think Marseille, is a bit of an unknown quantity to us, isn't he? But Batshuayi?
Yeah, we don't know a lot about him, but to go to Chelsea is a big step for any player. Doesn't matter where you're playing. And he's going to be expected to perform. I mean, Chelsea are not the side that will let you have a bad season and you'll still be there next season. I think there's a lot on his shoulders going there, especially as an international as well. I think he needs to. He's going to have to score goals early, otherwise they're the kind of side that he'll end up sitting on the bench for the rest of the season. And yeah, I think going back to N'Golo Kante, Gav's right. I think they've signed Leicester City's engine room, and he is a fantastic footballer. And he challenges, he runs, he tracks back. He is your perfect box-to-box midfielder, as far as I'm concerned, and I think he will do well. Conte's got a big job at Chelsea, and I think the couple of signings that he's made so far, I think are good signings, and they're well on their way. We're going to move on to Crystal Palace, and Gareth's favourite manager, Alan Pardew. Couple of signings, in Mandanda, the Marseille goalkeeper, who will be challenging for the number 1 spot. I think that Hennessy will be a little bit annoyed with this. He had a good season last season, despite where Palace finished, and he has had a good Euros as well. Also fighting there will be Julian Speroni, that's been there since the 1800s as far as we're concerned. I generally can't remember the last when he actually signed for them, to be honest. But he's also a very good keeper, so it's either 3 very good keepers are going to be fighting for a number 1 spot, or one of them's going to leave. And obviously with Mandanda coming in this season, it's going to be Hennessy or Speroni. So I'd imagine there'll be a lot of teams with their ears and their eyes on the TV and looking to see what's going on there. I mean,
It's it. I think Harry Redknapp has looked at all these players for Spurs, hasn't he? So that's always...
Is there a player that Harry Redknapp hasn't looked for Spurs?
To the best of my knowledge, no, they does not exist. But whilst Mandanda is a fantastic buy, I think they've done another good bit of business as well with Andros Townsend. Again, goals and assists he got for a struggling Newcastle side towards the end of the season were, well, almost enough to keep them up. So I think he will thrive in the Palace team in spite of Pardew, because for me, having Pardew in as the manager, it's, as the second half of the season showed, it's a sinking ship. I mean, teams seem to fall away very quickly under his guidance. Newcastle did similar, West Ham did similar, Palace did similar. I mean, if my crystal ball was to come up with what Palace will do, I imagine they will, because of Pardew's management, go downhill again.
Now, I think that Townsend is a good signing for anybody in the sort of mid to lower table of the Premier League. Now, I just want to ask you a question. I've been to Selhurst Park,
yeah,
and he is a natural winger, Townsend, but the pitch there is quite small.
Yeah.
Do you think that will hinder anything, or do you think he's got the trick or the pace to beat a defender on a small pitch?
No, I do think that will be an hindrance to him, as said. I suppose it's easier to defend against as well, isn't it? If you make the pitch, if the pitch is narrow, it's always an advantage. So yes, I think that will impact him negatively.
Yeah. We're going to move on to Everton, who, as far as we're concerned, the biggest signing for Everton this season, or not signing, so to speak, would be keeping Romelu Lukaku. I think that with Ronald Koeman going in there, I think that his first port of call will be to try and keep Lukaku at the club. A big, solid, strong forward that scores you goals, has got a good ratio, and will probably help Everton get up the table. If he can get Ross Barkley playing to his full potential as well, then I think that will be good for Everton. The only real signing that they've made so far is Martin Stekelenburg.
Yes.
And yeah, now Tim Howard's moved on, I think Stekelenburg is a solid goalkeeper. He's got a wealth of experience, and I think he's a good signing for Everton.
He is, and he's one that the manager will know very well. Is his previous goalkeeper, so I think that is a very good acquisition indeed. I agree with you about Lukaku, because I think he's a 20 goals a season man, so they are quite rare in the Premier League, especially for a mid-table team like Everton were. So, but I think as good as Everton are going forward, I agree, Barkley, Deulofeu, players like that, I think it's defensively where they are really becoming undone. And I think a lot of it was down to Martinez's organisation, or lack of, because I think players like Jagielka and Stones, they're not bad defenders, but they seem to be pulled every which way. So it seemed that they left massive gaps for teams to actually expose. So I think it's because of the tactics rather than the personnel.
So do you think that Martinez sacrificed defensive prowess for silky football?
Yes, I think he's a style over substance man, to be honest, and I think that is why Everton's lead position wasn't as good as it should have been.
Okay, we're going to go on to Hull. The biggest news is it's the 22nd of July today, and the biggest news coming out of Hull is yesterday that Steve Bruce has left the club. I'm a bit shocked, if I'm being honest. I knew that he had been considering his future over the summer. He was in contention for the England job, but when Allardyce got the England job, I'd have thought that he'd stayed at Hull. He's a good manager. He's got Hull up into the Premier League. He's got the ability to keep Hull in the Premier League. But yeah, I was quite surprised.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, because he's one of those managers. He's got Premier League experience. He knows, almost like Allardyce as well, to a certain extent. He knows how to keep a team in there. And well, I can't remember where I put them in my Premier League predictions, but I don't think I put them to be relegated. But so next week I'll show you why I have put them to be relegated. But no, I think with Steve Bruce at the helm, they would have had a chance. But now, well, it's all up in the air as to who they're going to get. I mean, the Moyes, he might take it, I imagine. He'd be a manager that Hull are after. So a few other names like that. This sort of managerial merry-go-round sort of always throws up these new type of names, doesn't it? So, no, I think Steve Bruce will be a big loss. But one thing I am very glad about is he did not get the England manager's job, because I don't want to see Alex Bruce in the central defence.
Yeah, I think I don't think he would have played in the centre of defence for England, but he seems to play for every team that Steve has managed. So,
yes.
Right, we're going to move on to Premier League. I can't believe I'm about to say this, because it still hasn't really sunk in. We're going to move on to Premier League champions, Leicester City, and the horrendous thought that Gary Lineker could be doing match of the day in his underpants on the first Saturday of the season. By the way, Gary, we're holding you to that. Yeah, I think their biggest thing this season is Kante leaving. They've got to find someone who has got his energy to push them forward. They've made a few signings, nothing major, which I believe is good for the club. I think the reason that they did so well this last season was because they had no egos in the club. They were a team, and Ranieri managed that team fantastically well. And let's be honest, at 5,000 to 1 at the start of last season, who would have thought that they would be the side that topped the Premier League? And let's be honest, won it quite comfortably.
Yes, quite. I believe it's the same odds for Christmas Day to be the hottest day of the year as Leicester to win the league title last season. So it goes to show what a fantastic achievement it really was. But I think with Kante, it's not just Kante leaving, is it? It's the knock-on effect it has on the other players in terms of Drinkwater was a better player because he had Kante breaking up the play, and then he was able to use his passing ability, things like that. So, but as we're recording now, Kante is the only only big player to have left the club. So we've still got Mahrez, still got Vardy, we've still theoretically got the same team spirit that they had. So yeah, I think that they won't be too badly off. I don't think they'll win the league again, but I don't think it'll be quite a fall from grace.
No, I think with Champions League football this season, it's an extra competition. They're going to have a bigger squad. They got lucky with injuries last season. They didn't have too many.
No.
But I do think that too many teams will improve, and I can see Leicester finishing about mid-table this season. I really can. Talking of mid-table teams, Liverpool. Sorry, Liverpool fans, but that's what it seems to be like at the moment. Couple of signings in, much needed goalkeeper in Karius. I imagine he will go straight in as number one because Mignolet's shite. Excuse my language, but he is. I mean, not being funny, European tie, how can you hold the ball for 23 seconds and get away with it? I don't know. But I think our biggest debate here will be £30 million for Sadio Mane. 30 million?
It's a transfer fee I can't understand. I really can't. Whereas you get Karius for 8 million, he was a goalkeeper from the Bundesliga team of the season, fantastic season. 24 or whatever he is, probably be once Neuer gets a bit older, challenging for German number one status, things like that. Whereas on the flip side of the coin, you get Mane, and I rate Mane. He's not a bad player, but I mean, not a bad player does not equal 30 million in my mind. So he scores in streaks, he'll have long periods without goals, and I think that whereas Southampton he could perform because it's sort of he was a big fish in not big fish in a small pond, but it's not as exposed as Liverpool will be, was it? So I think that was a reason why he was better at Southampton. I think to a certain point it'll be like the Titanic. He should have never left Southampton. That's my prediction for him. But
No, that's fair. That's fair enough. I mean, in my opinion, he's too inconsistent for £30 million. I mean, if he scored and played well every single week, then maybe you could justify the £30 million price tag. But as far as I'm concerned, that's way too much money. However, there have been many players in the past where it was said that they spent too much money, and they've gone on and done a fantastic job. So you never know what's going to happen there. One thing that we do want to talk about though is Jerome Sinclair, who has joined Watford from Liverpool. And the reason we want to talk about this is because we're actually quite happy, aren't we, that Liverpool have stood their ground on this. And he's a young player, he's a good footballer, but allegedly he wants a lot more money than what Liverpool were willing to offer him. And it comes down to the age-old debate, really, of do young players get too much too soon? And I think that Liverpool holding their ground and saying, no, this is what we're offering you, I think is fantastic for the Premier League. And I think that other clubs should take notice of this and go with this. I mean, Liverpool have done a lot wrong recently. Well, not wrong, but they haven't achieved as much as they should. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. However, this is what we do agree with. Me and Gav have a lot of debates about football and a lot of different ones. But this is one thing that we do agree on, and that is the fact that clubs, when players start demanding money, should be holding their ground.
Exactly. It's a line in the sand, isn't it, basically? And it should stop other players from demanding it, because if they caved in to Sinclair's demands, then it would have been a lot of players knocking on the dressing room door, well, the manager's door, and saying, well, where's my pay rise then, or whatever. So I think it does nip that right in the bud. Yeah. But talking about clubs who probably pay too much in wages and transfer fees and everything else, considering financial fair play seems to have been on the back burner, would be Man City, with still one of the worst performing Sterlings. But
and with the way that the pound has gone these days, for him to be a worst performing Sterling is quite an effort.
Yeah, it's quite. But saying that, I think this season they've bought well. They've got value for money in Gundogan, who's a very high energy midfielder. He'll be, I think he'll adapt very well to the Premier League. I think he'll complement. He'll be sort of the engine room that you need for players like Silva and De Bruyne to really showcase their talents. Not like they did badly last season, but no, I think he'll be a good asset to the City team.
No, we know a bit about Gundogan from watching him in the Champions League, and yeah, he's a very high energy midfielder. He's the complete opposite to Yaya Toure. And I'll tell you now, I went to watch Manchester City last season against Aston Villa at the Etihad Stadium, or Eastlands, or whatever you want to call it. But it said everything when Yaya Toure came off after 70 minutes and a Man City fan in front of me said, "Oh, he's off to bed now." And I think that pretty much sums Yaya up. He's got a burst of pace in him, but one. That's it, one. I think he's still got a lot to offer City, but I think he's slowly coming to the end of his tenure at Manchester City.
I agree there. It's like the turbo boost in a computer game. You have to use it sparingly, don't you?
Yeah.
Whereas another player who comes with a big reputation from last season, he was in the La Liga team of the season, is Nolito. Don't know much about him from Celta Vigo, I believe, but the issue I have is Sterling being put to the bench now because Nolito plays in the same position, from what I can gather, and it's going to get very competitive for the attacking midfield roles, isn't it? So where does Nolito fit into the Man City jigsaw?
Do you believe that Nolito has been bought in because of Raheem Sterling's form last season, and there's a danger that if they play Raheem again this season, that there's going to be problems and they need that player there? Or do you think that he is going to start ahead of Sterling from the start?
I think he is going to start ahead of Sterling. I mean, I'm not sure whether Sterling might have to think about a new club, really. He seems to have done what a lot of English players have done, go to the big club too early in their career, and it's actually backfired on them. I mean, Scott Parker was one of the players, wasn't he, like that, who went to Chelsea quite early on and never really recovered properly, I would say. So I think Sterling may have to go forwards. He has to go back, really, to quote Game of Thrones. But yes, I think he might have to do that.
As if you've thrown a Game of Thrones quote in. Okay, what we've done there is we've gone through the first 10 Premier League teams alphabetically. Just remember that all opinions are our own. Obviously, different supporters of different clubs will have their own opinions. Again, if you'd like to get in touch with us, we will tell you how to do that at the end of this. But what we're going to do now is we're going to switch to a player that we believe needs his section on his own, and that is Zlatan Ibrahimovic worth £200,000 a week? Gav?
Yes, I think he is. His goal scoring record for Sweden, for PSG, wherever he's gone has been fantastic. He raises the profile of whatever club he goes to. He wins the league title wherever he goes to, and I think with Mourinho and Zlatan, it's almost a sort of the quickest way to get to a league title is by getting players who've been there and done it. And I think he is a class act. He's I don't know if I'd put him in the sort of top 5 strikers in the world or top med, but he'd be close if not. So I think he is, and even at 34, which I think was one of the issues you have with it, isn't it? That it's age. But I think even at 34, he has a lot to give a team. And if I was Manchester United, I would sell Rooney, get 300k off the wage bill, and then keep 100k back. But no, I think Zlatan definitely is worth is very high wage fee.
Like you said, I completely disagree. First of all, I completely disagree with anybody getting £200,000 a week, let alone at the age of 34. They've got Zlatan on a free transfer, which, don't get me wrong, I've got nothing wrong with that. That at the end of the day, if they had to pay a transfer fee for him, they'd be looking at about £35-40 million for him, even at the age of 34. But I think that he will get goals, but £200,000 a week for a 34-year-old is just beyond me. I just don't see how you can justify giving someone 200 grand a week at 34 years of age. But then again, he'll probably come out and tell you that he's worth it.
Yeah. Again, I think that is a sign of the times though, whereas football wages have just gone astronomically high, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, yeah. I mean, but I think, I say that nobody's worth £200,000 a week and transfer fees are ridiculous. However, if you look at the Premier League, if you look at the money that is in the Premier League and in international football as a whole, I think if you were to work out like what money clubs had, what money clubs spend, it wouldn't actually work out that these players are being overpaid. But obviously to normal citizens like myself, Gav, yourselves, it is extreme. And I think at some point, I mean, not being funny, but who's going to become the first £1 million player a week? Yeah. And then it just spirals out of control from there, and that's how clubs decline. That's how clubs lose money. At the end of the day, there's got to be a cap somewhere. I believe he's a good player, Zlatan. I think he's worth money, but he's not worth 200 grand a week.
And that's the concern with the Premier League. It may become like Serie A, where all the money just, we spend so much money, and then it just sort of, as I said, all goes to pot, doesn't it?
Yes. Right. What we're going to do is to end this. Is over the summer, FIFA have introduced several new laws into the game, and the FA, the Premier League, and the Football League have also introduced their own disciplinary measures into the league. We're just going to briefly go through them for you and tell you how unbelievably confusing some of them are. Like, I'm a referee, and I'll be honest with you, I reffed a friendly on Sunday morning, and one player was stood at the kickoff, and I'd completely forgotten, and I was stood there and I thought, what the hell's going on here? Thinking the ball's got to go forward, and then obviously I remembered. So, what do you think? The ball can go in any direction from the kickoff?
Wow, it doesn't seem to be a sort of groundbreaking rule, does it? But
no, it's just weird to watch, isn't it? It's
yeah, quite.
It is strange.
I said it seems a lot of time that FIFA do all these type of sort of very small changes, whereas goal line technology and things like that, they seem to take an age to actually come. I think the big issues they don't seem to want to touch, but all these sort of minor issues. Was it UEFA, wasn't it, that had the and you like this, the referee behind the goal line?
Right, I'm going to kill that conversation there, right, and I'm going to make one clear statement. UEFA, you don't need 5 officials, sort it out. Right. That, honestly, it's ridiculous. Just get yourself some goal line technology, have your 3 officials like you normally do, and just get on with it. It's ridiculous. One of the new rules that have laws that have come in from FIFA is the offside rule.
Yeah.
In which the free kick will be taken from where the player last touched the ball. So if you're coming from an offside position in the opposition's half and you end up heading the ball in your half or taking the ball in your half, the free kick will be in your half. Controversial. I think a lot of teams might have something to say about this.
Yes, I can't imagine it's a very popular decision, but offside seems to be a rule they like to tinker with a lot, doesn't it? With the old daylight thing, and then there was all this. I can't remember when it used to be a simple rule. It's a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, the old if you're offside, you're offside, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, none of this daylight malarkey or what part of your body you can score with or all this. I think I would rather it just went back to said, you're offside, that's it. No sort of grey area.
See, I think the biggest thing for referees on this is when these laws are brought in, we spend the whole game enforcing them and thinking about them, whereas the players, the last thing they're thinking about is my left toe offside, or so I think. I think simplicity needs to come back into it a bit. I think a lot of people have got used to the daylight, the daylight thing, but yeah, that's one of the other rules. I think the one that's going to please a lot of people, especially at a professional level, is the triple punishment rule. Whereas if you're through on goal and the defender or a goalkeeper makes a genuine attempt to play the ball, then it is no longer deemed a straight red card, and it's a yellow card. What do you think about that?
No, I think that is fair. I mean, this is for penalties, isn't it? Whereas
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the penalty is enough of a punishment, really. I mean, the fact that it's a free shot at goal from 12 yards out. I mean, as long as you're not English, you probably are scoring that. So yeah, I think the fact that you're probably losing a goal from that, you don't need the defender or the goalkeeper to get sent off, unless obviously within reason. Depends on what they've done, but most of the time you don't need that to happen as well. So it's compounding the misery, and it kills off a game if it's a tight game, 0-0, and then that decision goes. You lose centre back, you lose a goal. It's the winner's always been decided from that point on, really. So yeah, I agree. That's a good rule.
Yeah, it is for penalties, but if somebody does the same thing 30 yards out and they get a red card for it, is a professional foul not a professional foul?
No, true. And I suppose it could be a scenario where they are 30 yards out, they're through on goal, they're probably going to score. So yeah, it should be. As I said, I think each case on its own merits on that one, really. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, they first implemented these at the European Championships, and to be fair, the refereeing at the European Championships was, I'm going to be honest, I thought it was spot on. I thought, apart from the 5 officials, I thought it was spot on. I thought they did really well. I think they implemented everything really well.
Yeah. Mind you, I think the European Championships could be another debate for another topic for another time, because I must admit there were points during that tournament I forgot why I like football. When Northern Ireland are trying to protect their 1-0 defeat, I sort of, it's again another issue for another time, but I think letting 3 teams out of any group situation it's very detrimental to the tournament as a whole.
Yeah.
No offence to Northern Ireland, I mean, I did very well, the fans were fantastic, everything like that. It's just the structure in place for them to actually think, let's protect a defeat, is wrong.
Yeah, and we're just going to quickly touch on the other day, the FA and the Football League and the Premier League released a little statement saying about the discipline in football, and more than 2 players surrounding the referee has to card one of them, at least. Effectively, it's gone to zero tolerance. Which I believe that sometimes it does go overboard. I mean, I've experienced it myself, but I think the zero tolerance thing is what's needed in football. I think especially professional players, get away with a lot more than they should do. And yes, it might lead to games finished 10v9 or 9v9, but at the end of the day, somebody's going to learn at some point. And I think that needs to happen. Definitely. I think discipline's one of the massive...
I totally agree. Yeah, it's chalk and cheese from rugby, isn't it? Where actually they would actually accept the referee's decision and be fine with it. It seems like most decisions the referee does make are actually they're challenged by many people. It's rarely just the captain anymore, is it, who to challenge the decision. So
No.
I think that is something I'm very happy to see introduced.
Yeah. That just about rounds up what we wanted to say today. All it leaves us to say is, like we said, this is our personal opinions. We're doing this for fun. If you like it, please watch it. Please share it with your friends.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe to it. It will be on YouTube. And And also, because we have done our own topics, if there is anything that you would like us to talk about, or any questions that you would like to answer, we have got... That's not going to work because of the light. Okay. We've got a Twitter account, which is @theoffsideflag, and if you want to follow us on there, then we will tweet on there, and we will probably tweet during Saturday, Sunday, Monday games.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. If you have any questions or any topics that you would like us to talk about, it is @theoffsideflag, and the hashtag is offsideflagquestions, and we will answer them. Look, they don't have to be football related. If you've got a daft question that you'd like us to answer at the end of the show, then that is what we'll do. At the end of the day, like we said, this is not serious, and if you'd like us to answer any questions, then give us a shout, and we will do our best to come up with something for you.
Yeah.
We're going to try and film on a Monday. So if you could get all questions in over the weekend, and we will try our best to accommodate your question. For those of you who have watched, thanks for watching. We've quite enjoyed it, to be honest, haven't we?
We have. And next week we'll be doing our league predictions, and we very much look forward to that. So thank you everybody for taking the time to watch this.
Yeah, thank you.